It's 3 p.m. on November 20th, 2020, and I hereby call this recess meeting to order. Would you please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Councilman Moran is via telephone this afternoon. City Clerk, Ms. Jeannie Klein, could you please call the roll?
Mayor DePrio.
Here.
Councilmember Moran.
Here.
Councilmember Morgan.
Present.
Councilmember Clark.
Here.
Councilmember LaCour.
Here.
Could I get someone to move or to adjust agenda? I'm going to move to table item number 2, 2020-327, motion to award bids for Hurricane Zeta debris removal disposal. Could I get a motion to move as amended?
I'll move.
Could I get a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Do we need a roll call, council? Okay. All right. Okay, thank you. City Clerk?
DePrio.
Yes?
Moran.
Yes.
Clark.
Yes.
Morgan.
Yes.
LaCour.
Yes.
City Manager, Mr. Michael Russo, do you have any comments?
Please. This morning at 10 a.m. we did open up RFQs for debris monitors. We also opened up bids and proposals from debris removing firms. We did have 7 companies submit RFQs for debris monitors. One of the firms did not properly submit, so we had to set that one aside. The firms were Cartadine LLC, Covington Engineer with Tetra Tech, Debris Tech, Disaster Program and Operations, Pickering Firm, Rostan Solutions, True North Emergency Management. We evaluated the lowest rates and all basically had about the same cost for those bottom 3 or 4. And we kind of looked at it and multiplied it over a 30-day period and just kind of tried to do the math to figure out what's our total based on their rates. Did speak with 2 of the firms that we were considering. That was Covington Engineering and Tetra Tech, as well as Debris Tech. Both are from the coast, and just FYI, Covington and Debris Tech. Both firms also came recommended to me from other cities while we were going through this process. I am recommending that we award the debris moving contract to Tetra Tech and Covington Engineering for the following reasons. The city's already got a working relationship with Covington Engineer as one of our master service contracts. Covington's partnering with Tetra Tech, which is a national firm that's well respected in the industry. Covington is prepared to have as many monitors as needed to work with the city as instructed. One of our employees, or 2 of our employees actually, have already worked with Shane Monroe, who's with Covington after Hurricane Katrina, dealing with FEMA project worksheets. So just there's some relationships there that work well. And again, the hourly rates when it came to price was about the same. Ben from Covington and someone from Tetra Tech are going to be with us this afternoon. I've asked them just to be available to answer questions from the council, as well as just to provide the scope of work or exactly what does the debris monitor do so our residents and our council can be informed. I also am thankful that you tabled number 2. We had, I think, 13 packets of information. We were going through them literally till about 15 minutes ago. We're just not prepared to make a recommendation at this time. We're going to wait till Monday, give us a couple of more hours to get that done so we make the right decision for y'all. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Russo, and thank you all for working so hard today. I know you worked nonstop to get us where we are today. Instead of opening up questions to the city manager at this point, I'm going to ask the firm that was selected by the city manager to come forth, and then we can ask you all questions, or if you could give us a briefing on how you plan to monitor. And I don't mean to put you guys on the spot, but I will.
Why not?
So we have Mr. Ben Benvenuti
Yes,
with
Ben Benvenuti
Covington.
with Covington and Katie Taylor with Tetra Tech.
Welcome.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
You want to start and just kind of talk about how the operations would run?
Sure. So I'm Katie Taylor. I'm one of the project managers with Tetra Tech. So typically, whenever you hire a contractor, and we'll meet with them together with your city, and they'll let us know how many trucks that they're going to bring in, and we will immediately get the monitors that are necessary. We'll get with you about DMS sites. I don't know how many the city plans on having, but we'll just start that process together with the contractor. We do this every day. We've been doing this for a long time, so we use an ADMS system that is proprietary to Tetra Tech, as I'm sure you read in our proposal to the city, but we're excited to work for Diamondhead and get this going. Like we said, we can get the monitors that are necessary, and we bring in Tetra Tech staff. As far as with Covington, we will have staff that has been doing this, but we will also hire locals as well. So it will help to bring in local jobs into the community. So
Yeah, and just to add on to that, so if you select a contractor on Monday, we'll be available at that selection and also to meet with them immediately. I imagine their project manager or owner will mobilize to the site immediately, start riding your streets. We'll be with them at that time, identifying, pickup areas, pickup zones by your wards. And then, as Katie said, we're working together already in other communities. We've got monitors trained and we're ready to hit the ground running. So they'll bring their trucks in, we'll certify their trucks, and as soon as their trucks are certified, they're ready to go to work and can start picking up.
And you may already have some DMS sites that you have picked out. If not, we can help you with that to determine that, working with DEQ in the area. We already know some of the things that they're going to be looking for, and some of their rules which are a little more stringent than we're used to, but we're ready to do that. And
Right, that's based on if, we know C&D is gonna go direct haul, they may want to direct haul to the landfill vegetative as well. So we'll have monitors at the landfill as well as any DMS site if that's elected to be used.
Okay, that answered the question I had on that. Is there any questions from any council members?
I don't even know who this question gets addressed to, but I've been asked several times. The leaves that are picked up, will they need to be in bagged? Some people, can we just put them loose there?
we
I
would
mean, I don't
prefer
know.
them to be loose. 'Cause
Loose?
bagged, if it's
Okay.
bagged and we cannot tell what it is, then it is not eligible debris as far as FEMA. It needs to be where we can see what it is. If not, it has to go with your normal garbage waste because it's not.
Okay.
If not, it would literally have to be opened up and the contractors.
Right, I don't have time for that, yeah.
So yes, please put a public service announcement as soon as possible, no bagged
Okay.
trash, so.
Ben, can you just give a little bit more detail on exactly, inside the city, what is the monitor doing? At the disposal site, what is the monitor doing on behalf of the city?
Yeah, perfect. So we'll be utilizing the ADMS system. It's an electronic system. Devices will be given to the monitors every morning. Each truck will have a monitor. That monitor is following that truck, making sure they're picking up eligible debris. That's FEMA reimbursable debris. It's got to be in the right of way. It's got to come from an eligible source. When that tree picks it up and loads the truck, that monitor will issue an electronic ticket to that truck. That truck will then go to the landfill or to a DMS. When he gets there, we'll have a monitor and a tower. That monitor will also have a device linked to that truck. We'll get the ticket and make a load call. So they'll look from an elevated position, look down, and give a percentage of that truck's volume. At that point, he's issued a ticket, he dumps. After he dumps, he comes back through the tower to confirm that he's empty, and he meets his monitor back at the site.
A lot of people think that what are these monitors doing behind these trucks, just sitting there, but they're literally verifying that the debris that is going into the trucks is indeed eligible. And with their phones, like you said, they're doing waypoints. They actually do a waypoint at every pile that's picked up. So you're able to see that each street, each pile was picked up indeed. And you will actually have access, the city, with a geo portal that we have that will show you the piles that were picked up with the waypoints. And so,
Yeah, no, that's a great point. So not only every ticket when he's full, but every place he picked up along that ticket will be tied to that ticket and will be tied to that load that's then dumped. So you'll know real time where they're picking up, what loads have been picked up. And then again, if it's C&D versus, construction and demolition debris versus vegetative, they're not mixing them, right? So there may be a pile of strictly vegetative and then a pile of fences next to it or shingles. They'll be separate piles. And so we'll pick up, or the contractor will pick up the vegetative, take it to the landfill, another truck, or he'll come back and get the C&D. C&D has to be direct hauled. MDEQ is not issuing any permits at this time for reduction sites for C&D.
which is helpful as a public service announcement to have your citizens separate the C&D material from the vegetation as best they can. Obviously, with a storm, you have some shingles and things like that that can get into the vegetation, but as best possible for them to separate that. It's very helpful to keep the two separated.
It's almost too late to be having this conversation.
It is,
No,
that-
and we
that's
did
hard.
post that on
And we
Facebook.
understand
We did.
that
We did
it
try
may
to
be
reach out.
Too
Yeah, we
late,
did.
but like I said, as best as we can. And if not, some of those will be mixed debris, which has to be C&D in that case, just because they will be grinding this. And you can start thinking about mulch if you have a use for it. That's sometimes helpful to let the contractor know that you'll have a useful place that it can go. If not, it will just be direct hauled to the landfill afterwards if you don't have a use for it.
And Ben, obviously, you're recording all this data in your GPS units. From a FEMA reimbursement side, from the city's reporting side, what are y'all doing there to getting that data to us?
Each night, you'll get a nightly report letting you know how many piles how much was picked up, the quantity. We're gonna have an assessment of how much, and I don't know what that is, how much you think that is here, but each night you'll see the percentage that was done, C&D versus vegetative. So you'll get that every night, and we can have the report as you like it. I mean, it depends on how you want it done, but we have a report that is kind of our standard, but if you want it tailored a certain way, we can do that. But the first night, we'll send you our standard, and if you want it differently, we can do that.
Right, and Mike, also to add on to that, that protects you from an audit standpoint with FEMA as well, because every load's documented with coordinates, where it was picked up. And so if there's ever a question about a load, we have the coordinates, what it was, where it was disposed of, and can prove that fact.
And that's a big positive, because if you've ever worked on a project worksheet, one of the first things they ask, what is the GPS location? So having that at every location is
Every single ticket that's printed.
tremendous. That is a big asset. So you're saying on the daily reports that we'll get, we'll have a daily total, plus we'll have a running total. So we'll know. One of the questions I have,
Cumulative and daily.
and this is, the residents are asking this as well, is will we know, in advance which streets we're gonna be working on?
That's more of a question for the contractor,
Contractor.
but typically, to be honest, they usually don't let us know which streets, but I mean, you can request that as a city.
I think it was part of our request that we had on there.
What I did was supply a map of each ward, so they have the city limits, the streets, and the wards. Also, what are federal aid roads have already been provided. And then from there, we would try to identify what are maybe some top priorities, and then from there, it would be,
Yeah, and
the contractor
certainly
will then
you can
start
give
telling
them
us.
your priority list, and all contractors respect that and usually go that route. But the good thing about our system as well is that a lot of times they'll say they went down my street and you didn't pick up, but you can always tell that we did or did not. We also do incident, for instance, typically a contractor comes in and they'll start with vegetation because that's the greatest need. And they also don't typically start out doing C&D unless requested by you. But we will also do an incident report of any pile skipped. And you'll be able to see that on your geo portal. And immediately when a resident calls in, you can look at that and say, okay, that's why they're calling. Indeed, they did skip their pile. This is the reason. So it's very helpful for you from a communication with your residents. You can typically have an answer for them.
Right, and that incident report will have a picture on it. So if they skipped a pile because it's C and D and they're running vegetative down that street, and the resident calls, you can say, well, that pile was skipped because it's C and D. As soon as the C and D truck runs, he's coming to get it.
Excellent.
And we do train these monitors. Obviously, it's human error. It's not perfect, but we do try to train them very quickly, and I can tell you that we get them going very quickly in the right direction. And we have supervisors with them, and our clients have been happy so far. And so I think you'll be very pleased as well.
I'd also just like to remind residents, and I put it out again this morning, was please park their cars on their private property. Try not to park in the roads or on the side of the roads, because if you're blocking your debris,
Yes.
that truck guy is not going to be able to grab it.
And
He's not going to take a risk of hitting that vehicle. So it's going to sit there until the next pass.
And another thing too is like water meters and things like that. If they are putting their debris on top of that, that's when you get your sprinkler systems and things like that, and you get your water leaks. If they're putting their debris on top of that, that's one of the greatest incidents that we do have, is the water starts spraying because their debris on top of that. So, but we do those type of incidents reports too. They'll take pictures if the driver hits the mailbox, hits the sprinkler system, and all those things. And if you would like that included in your nightly report of any damage, we will include that as well. You just
So
let
if
us know.
someone's mailbox does get knocked over, which I would expect at some
It
point,
will happen. I hate to
you know,
say
we
it,
got
probably.
that many
Every
houses,
time.
but what is the process for y'all?
We will immediately notify the contractor, meaning whoever is the prime, their project manager, and it just depends on the contractor. Typically though, they fix it, but it comes in your incident report, and as soon as they have fixed it, they sign a release and they get it back to you guys. But we do, though we're not directly involved with that, we make sure that the circle is completed. So we ensure that that loop is closed.
And public safety is a big issue as well. Those trucks are big, so, you know, we need to be watching that as well. And I think Councilman Clark had a
I
question.
believe one more. The houses that are on the golf course, what do we tell them? It has to be all in the front? Is it okay to have it can pick up on the back? What is the direction we give to those people?
I'm going to defer, but we can only pick up property on city property right of way. So if they want to stick their trash in the backyard on the golf course fairways, we're not coming to get it. We're not allowed back there. Correct me if I say something wrong, you two.
100% correct, yes.
You want them to
So-
bring it in the right of way.
Okay.
And we've said that a few times, so
Yeah,
I'm
it
hoping.
has to be public right of way.
The other part, I would just if y'all can comment on regarding, we obviously have some private property here, specifically our parks and recreation. We've talked a little bit about it in a previous conversation. Churches, commercial property, POA property, duck pond right there. How do we handle that?
So the property that you own is eligible. The property, the POA is its own entity. At this point, we would have to say it's not eligible. You can then ask for a decision from FEMA, and they'll make the final call if it's eligible to be reimbursed for the city to pick it up. Interlocal agreements with the POA would be helpful when you make that request. Churches, private businesses, it's the same thing. They're required to remove their debris at this point. It's not eligible for the city to pick up without specific circumstances.
However, we can help you to draft a letter to FEMA requesting that. It doesn't mean that FEMA will say yes, but we will help you to draft a letter requesting it.
We
if
want that
indeed the
letter.
city- Okay, okay. So we can start that
Yeah.
draft.
The other piece of, again, to me, it's a public safety health issue, especially on Golf Club Drive, where our country club is, and there's a lot of trees that are now dried out because,
Right.
you know, it's been a process. Is there a way to segment or at least pick it up, but keep it separate tracking purposes?
Absolutely, we can do separate logs and
So
all
that
those
if we,
things, so
you know,
that if indeed.
if we do end up having to pay for it and it's not
yeah,
eligible for reimbursement, that's a different, you know.
Yes,
Yeah, if there's an area of concern right now that may be questionable, a separate ticket, when it's logged in that ticket, we will separate it electronically. It'll still go to the final disposal site, but we will know exactly how much came from that questionable area. If FEMA denies that claim, we can pull it out and not seek reimbursement.
And so we
could-
don't
on all the
de-obligate
logs,
ourselves.
What we would do is we would put commercial on the back of the ticket.
Mm-hmm.
When it got to the DMS, we would have a commercial log. So all of it would have commercial, so none of it would get intermingled with your residential, which we are certain would get reimbursed. We can just keep it all separate. So yes, we could. And with the GPS.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, in particular, primarily churches and POA property,
Okay.
primarily. That's what, I mean,
Well,
It's
I was
out
gonna
on the
ask
council would
right of
agree with
way.
that.
When it gets, can I go ahead?
Oh, definitely. Go ahead.
So you've spoke about your technology that's going to assist us in tracking exactly what got picked up, where it went. I have to perceive that the city as a whole, the citizens as a whole, are not going to want to split hairs like we just had a discussion 20 seconds ago. I would think it's in the city's best interest to have it all picked up, and that we have a tracking system and a monitoring system that can divide the two for reimbursement purposes. And if the monetary value of the non-reimbursable is something the council can, in the future, decide to pay for, would that not be a possibility?
I think that's a fair statement. If it's out in the right of way, it's out in our public right of way to be picked up. It's going to be difficult unless you're looking at the GeoPortal
Right.
all day, which, you know, is probably a year out from being updated. So I can't tell you that that's exactly correct. You're not going to know.
Exactly.
You're not going to know. The POA owns property throughout the city, so you're not going to know. And not to say that residents haven't piled up because they didn't want it in front of their yard. I'm going to have to tell you, some may have accidentally piled it up in front of other properties. And if it's in the right-of-way, you know, in the right-of-way, it's out in the public right-of-way for pickup.
So
Go ahead.
those would be, they would have to be individual calls.
Yes,
Out
they
in the field.
would.
But yes, you're right. We've had instances in other communities where you've got a resident then takes all his material and moves it across the street out in front of a business. It's still in the right of way. And if you went and looked at it, you'd say, well, that's a business's issue. But no, we were able to confirm and make the determination that that is residential debris and it was able to be picked up. So it, you know, by the letter of the law, anything in front of, or, you know, commercial debris is not eligible, but you will have to look at specific instances in the field.
Residential, which is the city,
Right.
most of it, except the front business district.
A follow-up.
I'm with Councilman LaCour, just make sure those tickets are correct, but we need to pick up if it's in the right of
And a
way.
follow-up to that, the condominiums, are we believing them to be the residential?
How would y'all define, you know, not an apartment complex which has one parcel with one owner, maybe a business, but condominiums that have 300 different owners inside, multiple parcels, because each one's taxed? How is that handled?
But I would say that could be considered, I would look at it, but probably commercial, honestly, but, because they should have their own insurance. I don't know, I'm just gonna
We'd
defer
have to, yeah, we'd have to look at our case. If it's a commercial enterprise, they're required to remove their debris. If it is residential and we can prove that it's residential and the streets are maintained by the city and garbage pickup goes down it, then a lot of those play into eligibility on pickup. It's just, it's not black and white. I mean, what is black and white, if it is commercial and they have insurance, they're supposed to utilize that insurance or utilize their own means to remove and dispose of material. There will be instances where, you know, you do maintain this road, it is a city road, it is within a condominium, it could potentially be eligible to
And
be picked
obviously,
up.
you maintain the roads in front of your commercial buildings as well, so it's not unfortunately with FEMA, it's not a black and white, which is the difficult part of this whole process.
Now,
But-
just for the record, in Diamondhead right now, the condominiums, the only set of condominiums that are city roads would be High Point.
Okay,
The rest of them is all
Right.
private property.
okay.
We don't maintain them, and most of them will have dumpsters, not regular, you know, waste management picking up cans.
So Mayor,
But it may not be our top
why I brought
priority
that
when we have to
up.
put that on,
Right.
that's a substantial amount
Down the road
of
a little
damage
bit.
out there right now.
but we got a lot of houses to pick up first, so.
Right.
But
In
I'd like to look
June-
at that.
In June 2020, the Papa G, which is what we go by, they did change. In private roads, we can go down if they are frequently traveled, and, I mean, the wording's changed a little bit, and there's no gate, or, you
No
know,
gate.
there's open access, but then once again, there's still I mean, they leave a lot for us to interpret, and then we get in trouble for interpreting, so we will make sure to do our best to protect you, to get you fully reimbursed without, and in doubt, we'll get extra documentation, obviously health, safety, hazard things to protect your citizens. If there's a roadway where it's truly hard to navigate because of this debris, if we can get backup from your police, fire, things like that to help us to put extra documentation in our files, that's always helpful and does help to make sure that you get reimbursed. So,
And what might be a good suggestion, if you come Monday, if you have time, if we make the motion today to decide to move with you all, if you could come Monday, get with the city manager, one of the city employees, let's print out the master city map, right? And then we can tell you what's public streets and what's not.
and
So
what we will want to do is have our GIS people, if you do that.
we have
will
GIS, it is
immediately put it onto
wonderful.
our,
Okay,
it gets imported into your GIS people talk to our GIS people, and it's important, we know what's private roads, what's public, all those
we
things.
can easily do that, and that's where
state,
we need to
federal
start,
roads,
right?
Perfect.
Okay,
And also the ward lines, if that's how you decide to pick up, right? You don't want all the assets going to one part of the city, and
want
assets
it
meaning trucks.
zones or-
So if you want to use zones or your wards, then we can make sure, or you can talk with the contractor and direct them, I want equal assets in these zones.
I think wards is a good line, and we have that in GIS, the ward
Right, and that's
So
easy.
boundaries.
that would be a perfect
I
way
mean, if
to-
everybody else agrees with wards,
And,
okay.
and in an effort to get moving, the easiest is your residential, where we know it's eligible, get the contractors moving, and during that time, we're meeting with your staff.
Right.
And we're identifying these condos, and we're identifying these commercial districts, and we're sending the request to FEMA, and we're building that case, and it may get denied, and if it gets denied, or it may take too long before it gets denied or approved, and you make the decision, we wanna go
And we
pick these
proceed,
areas
as you
up,
said.
then we're gonna segregate it, and that way, at the end of the day, if it gets approved, great, we have all the documentation. If it doesn't, it's not a good thing, but we still have all the documentation, and you won't get dinged for the whole pile.
And you're prepared to pay for it and aware that that may be the path that you have to go down.
All right, I think that's, any other questions? I think
I
that.
just have one more for the manager. The motion reads to award an RFQ, but is there a dollar amount involved here? In the or what exactly are we doing?
It's not a dollar amount because it's based on hours worked, so.
Is there an
There-
estimate of hours or anything? Cubic yards, do we have any?
So we
Any
we
metric?
basically have asked the contractor to make 2 runs through the city, 2 passes in 30 calendar days. And when, again, weather permitting, there would be some weather days in there. And then finally, we'd have a third final pass, probably within 10, 15 days after that.
Sure, did you
Okay?
get any?
So if we looked at everybody working full-time, and we kind of averaged, put that out into their hourly rates for, is it the project manager, is it a supervisor, is it a monitor, is it a consultant, what's that hourly rate, how many of each, and we kind of spread it based on all the firms. They all basically were in about the same ballpark for cost, and we were using basically 30 days at that point.
And we're gonna
Okay.
do 30-day pay request from the firm that's selected for monitoring. And they know, this is FEMA, you know as well as anybody, you need time sheets, you need backup this big to go when you send a pay request,
It'll
so,
be audit ready when you get it.
okay,
And another
just
thing that we
making
do
sure.
offer is we also will make a payment recommendation before you pay the contractor as well. And when that comes to you, it'll have every ticket, every load ticket,
Mhm.
leaner hanger, if you do the leaner hanger program, it will have everything before you pay the contractor. We will make a payment recommendation, which will have a letter associated with that, and so.
I think back what I was trying to get to. Is the estimate 40,000 cubic yards? Is there some estimate that FEMA and MEMA gave us?
That
as they
was
drove
what
through
we
the city?
used as a guesstimate.
Okay,
Um,
so there's a metric. You got a vehicle, you know what the cost is, so,
It's a guesstimate.
okay.
It could be higher.
Well, I understand,
Okay.
but typically when we award, we have a dollar amount.
Yeah.
We have something to hang our hat on. Okay, that's all I have, man.
But another point, that if there's 4 monitors working, that's one cost. If there's 10 monitors working,
Sure.
that price just went up. But that means we got more trucks in the field.
Yeah, and
So
you're gonna
hopefully
get
it'll be
done
done
quicker.
faster compared to.
I had something, Nancy.
Mhm.
I know when y'all look at the streets of where to start, my suggestion would be, just like out here, they've piled about 4 or 5 trees that you can hardly see to cross that road. It's the danger. And it's hard to see. You can't see, you gotta get all the way out in the road because you get all of this debris. And so I just think those areas that are like that, maybe they need to have us a little priority.
Oh,
to
for
keep the
sure.
safety
And
of
we
the
would
road.
like for you guys to suggest the high priority, high hazard areas for the contractor. We don't direct the trucks, just to make that clear, the monitoring firm does not. They will take direction from the city. We can be the person to let them
We can tell
know-
you if they're not following your direction, but we, yes.
Right.
But yeah, and that happens in a lot of communities is they'll get on the streets and they may hold back, let's just say they brought 6 assets the first day. They may put one truck in each of your wards and then use 2 assets to go get those
spots,
dangerous
yeah.
piles, those hotspot piles and get those picked up.
Right.
And so, and that's something we, when you do select a contractor, we all sit around the table and you discuss that with them and everyone we've worked with has been amenable to that.
All right, excellent. Any other questions?
Just one final comment, or at least for information purposes. We do have a holiday next week. How are the other cities planning for Thanksgiving with work schedules?
So-
What are you seeing?
What we're seeing right now, what I can tell you, what I'm seeing in Harrison County and Gulfport, right now, the plan is both contractors to take off Wednesday through Sunday. Now, I don't know if Gulfport has officially made that. I don't think either of them have officially given that, and so I don't want that to get out. But yeah, I mean, that's what the contractor's asking for. The contractor's requesting a
But
Wednesday through
clearly,
Thursday.
whatever you, direct, I think that Tetra Tech, Covington, we're willing to do whatever the contractor dictates. So if that means work through the holidays, we're always willing to do that.
And-
I've missed many Thanksgivings, so.
Yeah, and I was gonna follow up with, if you direct the contractor to work on Monday, we'll have we've already had monitors trained. We'll train as many monitors as we need. We'll be here working if the contractor's working.
So our
And-
schedule is dictated,
yes.
obviously, by the contractor.
Our schedule's dictated by you and the contractor. We will be here whenever you want those trucks running.
And that'll have to be determined once we award the contract
Yes.
on the holidays. Well, thank you both very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you all
Thank
very
you.
much for your confidence.
Thank you. Any public comments for agenda items? City Clerk, Ms. Jeannie Klein? No comments? Moving on to the action agenda. Action agenda item 2020-326. Motion to award RFQ for debris monitoring to Covington Engineers and Tetra Tech for Hurricane Zeta debris removal. Could I get a motion?
I so move.
Could I get a second?
Second?
Any discussion to my left? Any discussion to my right? Councilman Moran, any discussion?
No, thank you.
City Clerk, Ms. Jeannie Klein?
Glasses might help. Morian,
Yes.
Morgan,
Yes.
Clark,
Yes.
McClure,
Yes.
DeBrio.
Yes. Any public comments on non-agenda items? Could I get a motion to recess until Monday, November 23rd, 2020, at 3 p.m. in council chambers?
I'll move.
Could I get a second?
Second.
City Clerk, Ms. Jeannie Klein?
Morian,
Yes.
Morgan,
Yes.
Clark,
Yes.
McClure.
Yes.
Schaefer. Excuse me, DeBrio.
Yes.
She pulled an old, but I'm struggling over here.
That's okay.